I'm Clint, and thanks for joining me. We have an image review from the portfolio of Prabesh Aryal, where the discussion will be all on perspective. Now, this is only one of 4 images I reviewed of his. The other 3, we go over other topics. For the full video, where you can see those, check out the link below. I'll have a little word at the end of this video about it. But for now, let's get started. So let's cue the music. Break it down and use this kind of a perspective 101. I have added to his scene. He did not originally create the scene with these white spots on the sides. I did that so that we'd have room to run some perspective lines. This is the main image right here in the middle. To start with, what you have to do is establish a horizon line. The horizon line is the basis, the foundation for determining all of your perspective. That is where you're going to place your vanishing points. Now, the vanishing point is where any 2 parallel objects will appear to come together in the horizon. Obviously, they don't come together, but everything foreshortens down to the point where it touches together at the horizon. If I was to run this into infinity, and I was to run this into infinity, these 2 would meet right there. And that means that is the vanishing point for these 2 parallel objects, those 2, because they mirror each other, same angle. That horizontally would be where my horizon line is. Of course, we run into the issue that the horizon line is higher than the buildings. I mean, it's possible the buildings could be lower. It's possible that these people are very high. I'm thinking maybe they're up on a bridge. So the horizon line could be there. But that also means that we need to see the top of these buildings, and we need to see ground behind here up to that level, in which case the sun is already partially set behind the horizon. And that's fine, it just needs to be implemented that way. That is how you find the horizon line. Get 2 parallel things, take them out to infinity, see where they touch, and then run the horizontal back, and that will be your horizon line. The horizon line, incidentally, is always your eye level. This is how tall you are in the scene, from there to there. From here to here, I don't know if you can see it over there. Your eye level is always horizon line. So, if this person is, 5.5 feet tall, then you're considerably taller than he is. Alright, let's turn that off and look at this. And I've already ran some of these out. I determined the same thing earlier. Ran the perspective out. Now I used the main guides here. Turn that down a little bit. To determine the horizon line based on this overhang and based on the side here. The street line here does not quite match up with that. That could be corrected simply. And the rest of it follows pretty close. The other thing that would need to be adjusted is this rail height. The rail begins to dip over there at the end. So that would need to be brought up to meet with that line. As far as the shadows, we also have some things going on with the shadows. We have one major light source in this scene, and that of course is the sun. The problem is, kudos to you if you noticed it, but the shadows don't match the sun. Look at this. There should be a straight line. If I have a light source right here, and I have an object, that shadow is going to be in a straight line from that object. This shadow is going like this over here, telling me the light source should be there. This shadow is coming from over here, telling me the light source should be over there. The light source, of course, is right here. So what do we do about that? Well, let's check that. This is where the light source should be. Now, the sun is maybe 4 times bigger than you would actually see it, but let's artistic license, let's say the sun is bigger, maybe this isn't even Earth. Horizon lines perspective would still apply, though. These are the angles at which the shadows need to fall according to where the light source is. So this one would need to be moved over there. These two people here don't have shadows right now. Obviously those would need to be added, and they would need to follow that angle. And this line, which is here, needs to be moved to that angle in order to be in line with that. So those things would need to be changed. We're not going to be making these changes. This is just a red line review, and he can take care of these changes later if he wants to. Additionally, the railing shadows are following, they were actually a lot closer to the actual accuracy than these post shadows are. They were saying that the light sources here, they are all matching up to say the light sources are actually right about there. Which, of course, isn't accurate, but it's not far off. Anyway, those need to be corrected. So I had a guideline in here. These are the angles at which the post shadows should be cast at. There is your other major angles here. Now, you might be thinking, that kind of takes care of the whole thing. That takes care of your cast shadows. That takes care of correcting the railing angle here. It tells us where the horizon line is, tells us that we should actually be seeing the top of this building and this building and this building because they are all under the horizon line. Anything lower than the horizon line, from here to here, we should see the top of it. Anything over the horizon line, from there upwards, we should see the bottom of it. So we need to see the top of those buildings there. What else is there to look at? Well, there's these posts. What's up with the posts? Well, the posts have been eyeballed in. When you have a repeating design here, you can either just guess where the posts should go, or you can actually figure out using perspective exactly where the posts should go so that they are placed correctly. Let's go ahead and look at how to do that. We have our perspective horizon line turned on so we know where our vanishing point would be. And the first thing we want to do is establish two posts. We want to say, I want one here and I want one there. By using two of these, we can actually determine where all the other ones should be. So I'm going to put in, let's see, let me turn this to hard light so it shows through a little bit. I will use this post and this post as my absolutes. So that's where one is supposed to go, and this is where one is supposed to go. Now they're supposed to meet down here in the middle with this V. Well, where exactly should they meet? Well, what you do is you take the top of one and run it to the bottom of the other one. And you're going to make an X from the top to the bottom to the top. Now those will meet in the middle. And what I want to do is run a vertical line where that X is. Now where this meets the ground at the same perspective, that is where this V should be. So this V should be right there. We then want to determine where the next section could be. How do we determine where this post should be and where this V should be when we only know this? Well, let's back up, take away those little guidelines there. Actually, we do need that vertical. Let me put that back in. What we're going to do is find the middle. We need to know the middle. So I'm going to grab the vanishing point. Now I'm picking this vanishing point because this is the vanishing point that both the top and the bottom use. That's where they meet at the horizon line. So that is also the vanishing point that I'm going to use for the middle. I'm aiming this line up with this. This is the middle. This is where the X is. So, the middle of the X, I'm going to draw a line from here to infinity, right there. Now that we have that established, what we're going to do is continue to use this X pattern to determine where the next section should be. We've already figured it out once if you're paying attention. See this, using the top of this one through the middle of this one will show you the bottom of the next one. All we want to do is continue that sequence. I'm going to use the top of this one through the middle of that one, continuing it out, tells me where the next V would be. Again, how do you determine the next one? This is why we need extra space over here. You then use the top of this one through the middle of the next one here. Right about there. And I could continue this line there. So right here is where the next post should be. Now, this is why it's important to always check your perspective when you're doing something like this that has repeating patterns, because it's usually much different than what you think if you're just going to eyeball it. So in this case, this post needs to move from there to here. He drew it so that this distance, that distance were about the same. Which is fine if you're seeing it from completely the side view, but you're not. You're seeing it at an angle. In which case, this distance has to be almost twice that distance due to perspective. So, this V needs to move to here, and that needs to move to there. And that's how you determine what your sequence is supposed to be if they're all in the same distance from each other. Let's turn that off. You can use perspective in order to determine where the horizon line is supposed to be and what you see the top of, what you see the bottoms of. It tells you where sequenced objects are supposed to be, whether this is a series of repeating buildings or people standing in a line or posts for a building. You can use that same top through the middle to find the bottom, or the bottom through the middle to find the top of the next one. But you can use those perspective rules to get things absolutely accurate, and they don't really take that much time to run those lines out. So always take the time to learn that if you don't learn it, because that is a fundamental thing to know in order to get your accuracy in your drawing. And we will now move on to image number 3. Thanks for watching. Now if you enjoyed this image review, check out the full video where I go over 3 other images, like this one, which is an environment design where it's about getting the good ideas he's already put in and pushing them even further so that the environment has a little more variety and a little more immersion to it. This image, where we talk about multiplying shadows, a little more perspective, and the last image, where it's refocusing on the focal points, playing down things that are a little distracting, and playing up other things so it's more clear what the interests are. So check out the full video at the link below, and I'll see you there.